At the time of the invasion of northern France in early June 1944, what's remembered as the D-Day invasion, the American President Franklin Roosevelt had things that he wanted to say to the American people, but he did not want to say these things to the American people directly. He wanted to say them indirectly. He wanted to take the edge off a bit of some of the things that he would have to say because some of those things were difficult. And so he sends this message to the United States, to the people of the United States, in the form of a prayer. He says these difficult things to God, and he lets the American people listen in. And in that way, he takes the edge off a bit of what he is saying. One of the things that the president wants to tell the American people is that the situation is very grave. Now, by June 1944, there have been plenty of large battles in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, in North Africa, in Italy. But this D-Day invasion, the biggest invasion from the sea in the history of the world, this is something that is unique. This is something that calls for presidential notice. This is something that calls for a president to address the American people. And so in this prayer, he points to the gravity of the situation.
My fellow Americans, last night when I spoke with you about the fall of Rome, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the Channel in another and greater operation.
He refers to the fall of Rome, which obviously is a big deal. This indicates that this very difficult struggle against the Germans in Italy is just about done. But another great struggle is now on the point of beginning. And although we will continue to prosecute the war from the south, from Italy and going into southern France and then into Germany from there, defeating Germany really depends on this invasion into northern France. And then from there, we'll make our way into Germany. Given the difficulties to come, the president wants to remind the American people of the purpose of the war. Why are we fighting this war? Since war was declared in December 1941, there has been great loss of life. There has been great loss of resources. Americans on the home front have lived with rationing and with the anxiety of having loved ones in war zones around the world. A certain exhaustion can set in, a certain tiredness can set in. And so the president wants to remind the American people of the purpose of this war. What is this war about?
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people.
The president wants the American people to know that even in the best case scenario, there are going to be losses. And there is the possibility of defeat with even greater losses. There's no way this invasion can be prosecuted and pursued without loss. And of course, the American people know this, but we don't know the extent to which these losses will go. We don't know how many losses there will be. So the president wants to encourage the American people to brace themselves for the losses that may come.
The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom.
The president wanted to prepare the American people for the possibility of failure. He says early in the prayer that the First stages of the invasion have been successful, but there's no guarantee that will continue. And so as we chase victory, we need to be prepared for defeat. And this is something that the president doesn't want to say directly to the American people. So he says it in the form of a prayer to God, and the American people can listen in.
Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces.
Even if the American forces, the British, the Canadians, and the other allies who charged the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, even if they are hurled back, the president wants to assure the American people that the war will continue. The war effort will continue until the Nazi regime is defeated. He wants the American people to recommit themselves to the cause of perseverance in this struggle to defeat the Nazi regime.
Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day, without rest, until the victory is won.
And then the president wants to encourage acceptance. Underlying this, I think, is the president's unspoken message. We have planned to the extent that we could have planned. We have done what we think we could have done. All of it. We have put everything into planning for this event. And now we have to accept what comes. And so in the end, not as a matter of passing the buck, not as a way of sort of trying to unburden himself of responsibility, but just accepting that there's only so much you can do. We've done what we could have done, and now the thing is unfolding, and you put it in the hands of God. And Franklin Roosevelt wants to encourage the American people to do the same thing. We've done what we could do in terms of planning. Now the invasion is underway. It's unfolding, and we accept what comes.
Thy will be done, Almighty God. My fellow Americans, last night when I spoke with you about the fall of Rome, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the Channel in another and greater operation. It has come to pass with success thus far. And so, in this poignant hour, I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day, without rest, until the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. They yearn but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom. And for us at home, fathers, mothers, children, wives, sisters, and brothers of brave men overseas, whose thoughts and prayers are ever with them, help us, Almighty God, to rededicate ourselves in renewed faith in Thee in this hour of great sacrifice. Many people have urged that I call the nation into a single day of special prayer. But because the road is long and the desire is great, I ask that our people devote themselves in a continuance of prayer. As we rise to each new day, and again when each day is spent, let words of prayer be on our lips, invoking thy help to our efforts. Give us strength, too, strength in our daily tasks, to redouble the contributions we make in the physical and the material support of our armed forces. And let our hearts be stout to wait out the long travail, to bear sorrows that may come, to impart our courage unto our sons, wheresoever they may be. And, O Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in Thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our united crusade. Let not the keenness of our spirit ever be dull. Let not the impacts of temporary events, of temporal matters of but fleeting moment, let not these deter us in our unconquerable purpose. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogances. Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil. Thy will be done, Almighty God.